So we'd been talking about getting married for a long time, and probably the biggest criteria in us getting married is that my family was there. Like my parents, my grandparents, that was very important to us. And so we're in the States. My boyfriend at the time came with me to visit family. We went to Vermont. It was beautiful. And we just kept being like, we don't want to spend 3 months apart from each other. We love each other. Maybe we should just get married. Should we get married? Maybe we should just get married. Us deciding to get married is not the crazy part of this story. So we decide we're gonna do it. And we had a very small time window in which we could get married, with my dad still being in town and my husband still being in town and all the other events going on in that week. And in New York State, you need to get your marriage license 24 hours before you can actually have the marriage ceremony. So that also added some time constraints to us. So we decided on a Monday evening, really decided. Tuesday told my immediate family and we celebrated, we had champagne, we played the newlywed game. So the next day is a Wednesday and we're driving from Burlington, Vermont back to where I live in New York. It's like a 5.5 hour car ride. And at the beginning of the car ride, I'm like, oh, I'll call the county clerk and set up our appointment to get our marriage license for tomorrow. So we could get the marriage license on Thursday and get married on Friday. And that call did not go as planned because in New York State, apparently, you need a birth certificate in order to get a marriage license. And my spouse does not have a US birth certificate, and he did not have anything that was similar to it from Finland. And even if he did, he'd have to get it notarized, which would take all this time that we just didn't have. We're in the back of this car, we're speeding, we're trying to get from Vermont back to New York so we can really do this research because we're just on our phones in the back of the car. And we find out that you don't need a birth certificate to get a marriage license in New York City. So my parents are driving, we're in the back seat, and they're like, oh, we can drive you to Albany, drop you off at the train station there. You guys can take a train to New York City, get your license in the morning, fly back Thursday night, and get married on Friday. And I'm like, I don't know, that seems so crazy. At this point, we're pulled over on the side of the road. We're trying to figure this out. My husband is calling the Finnish consulate. He's speaking in Finnish. We're all doing research. I'm feeling completely overwhelmed. I'm like, maybe we can fly out Thursday morning to New York City. It's an hour-long flight, if that. Do everything and then fly back. So I'm like, I just don't know if I can get on a train in Albany right now. I don't even know if I have all the correct stuff. So we keep driving, and I do what any person in a crunch does. I go on Reddit. I'm typing US citizen trying to marry a foreigner options, things like that. And virtualmarriages.com was recommended. Now, this service came around because of COVID, I believe, and it's this one county in the state of Utah, which is completely across the country from where I live in New York. And they're the only place in the country that's allowed to do Zoom weddings. So as long as the officiant is in that county in Utah, they can marry anyone in the world, literally over Zoom. It felt like a scam. It felt too good to be true, but so many people were talking about it, had all these great reviews and stories, and I'm like, F it, let's do it. So we put in all of our information and we get our marriage license from Utah that day. And we're so excited, but we're also exhausted and we're nervous because what if this isn't real? What if we're being scammed? And because we're, DIYing this wedding over the course of just a couple of days, which has always secretly been my dream. I've always wanted to elope or do something like this. So I'm kind of living for it. But because we didn't know if this was real or not, I'm like, I don't want to tell anyone about this in case it doesn't happen, in case we are being scammed. I would be so mortified. I'd be so embarrassed. And so my parents know, my siblings know, we tell my grandparents, and then my mom's like, can I tell my sisters? And I'm like, yes, but that means that I have to tell my cousins. I'm like, those are the only people who I want to know. And don't worry, I'll tell you guys all about the hair and the dress and the cake and the flowers, and I'll maybe put some pictures or some videos in there too in a different video. But for right now, I want to let you guys know that it was not a scam. But up until the last minute, we're like, it could be. It totally could be. We log on to the Zoom link. I'm in my dress, he's in his suit, and I have a couple of my family members there. We're at my grandparents' house. And the Zoom link is supposed to start at noon, and at noon the officiant still hadn't logged in. We're like, that's it, it's a scam. We got scammed. At 12:01 though, she logged in and she married us. My husband was able to stay in the States for a couple days afterwards, which was amazing, before he had to return back to Finland. And then I waited in the States because I had to wait for the apostle stamp version of our marriage certificate to come in the mail, which could take 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm like, I'm gonna stay, I'm gonna spend time with my family. I got a new tattoo, and I just prepared to start my life over here in Finland.